All right, here we are. Here we are live. Hello. I've taken a break from these for 2 weeks because we got school holidays starting and some chaos, but now I am back. And in those 2 weeks, so much transformation. We had such a powerful full moon, the feminine energy in its full expression. I've been doing a lot of work in regards to the feminine energy, which I'm excited to share on here, which I'm excited to talk about. Give me 1 second. Okay, just wanted to make sure it works. All right. Okay. So, let us begin by taking a deep inhale in as we come into this beautiful space, bringing your awareness to yourself. That is really the reawakening of your intuition, the reawakening of yourself when you can choose you. There are so many things outside that are there grabbing your attention and that are, trying to choose the center for you. And if you don't take that power, back, if you don't decide where your center is, if you don't decide your values, someone else will for you. Okay, the world will do it for you. So coming into your heart and exhaling out and feeling the softness of your body, feeling the softness of your soul, surrendering into that. You may be coming from this go, 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 or do, 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 and just relaxing that, putting it on the side for a few minutes, okay? With this Transformation Tuesday is not going to go too long. We're just putting that on the side and coming into the present moment. I even invite you to, if you feel called to, even just like stretch, come into the body, feeling its deliciousness, feeling its your intuition, your inner knowing. Now, this is something that is misunderstood and confused because your power is in the present moment, right? So many of us are afraid to be in the present moment because, like, well, if I'm present, right? If I'm not in the stories of the past or the projections of the future, often both, right? It's like, oh, but that happened in the past. I don't want that. This is probably what's happening now. This person said something. So it like reminds me of the past and I don't want this to happen in the future. So, we're between there, and we're never here. And we're afraid to come into just now. Because if we're present, guess what happens? All the unprocessed emotions, all the trauma, it keeps coming up, right? It wants to be cleared because you're programmed for healing, you're programmed for wholeness, and all these things that are not in alignment with that, they start coming up to surface when you're present. And so we keep running. The mind keeps running. It's like, no, that's not safe. I don't want to be here, right? I want to be there in the past or there in the future. I don't want to be here. Do, go, go, go. The hamster wheel, the activities, the appointments, the things that need to be done, and stillness is not safe. I had a client that I was starting to work with. It was just a clarity call to see if we're in alignment. And at that first call, and they're walking, and I'm like, could you sit down, please? Because we're coming into the body, and they're like, oh, I was hoping I could walk. Like, no, this is the opposite of what we're doing here. And then, 3 months later, they were like, wow, I was running away and it feels so good to come back home and to be in stillness, actually to feel safe because the person learned how to be in that space. So just welcoming that in, acknowledging your fear, first of all, acknowledging the ego that is amazing and that is there trying to help you survive in the ways that are not working, right? But doing the wrong thing for the right reason, okay? It's just acknowledging that part of you. As we're coming into the body, coming into the breath, choosing to be here. And this is the misconception that I don't want to be in the body. It doesn't feel safe to be in the body, right? I want nothing to do with this. And yet it is through the connection when you actually sit in that, and then all the demons come out, right? And you work through that and you learn to come into wholeness, not through rejecting it, but through loving it, through sitting with it. Then you come to this place of intuition. Because that energy, the clutter, the mud has been cleared. And all that's left is your intuition. All that's left is your inner knowing. And This is what I'm inviting you to today. Now, in regards to, well, how do we do the work? How do we clear the clutter apart from presence? Because, and this is the reason why people come to me for the one-on-one work, because I heard presence is great, but it's scary. It's freaking scary because the more unprocessed stuff you have coming up, it's coming up, right? Um, it's scary to look at. I don't want to be with that. And this is what we're working through. Now, one of the questions that recently came up from someone actually in Thrive in the monthly membership that we have, we just had a call last Saturday, and there was such an amazing question. Let me just get it. What is it when we feel a strong feeling of nostalgia in certain places or situations, but you know you didn't live that situation before? So how can you feel nostalgic about it? Um, and yeah, their parent was a psychoanalyst that did a lot of former life and preconception, regression work with patients to help them heal the trauma. So this question came because I addressed past lives and that, ooh, that in as we're working with, so my work is all in the present moment, right? Because you're going to become an inner workaholic if you keep going to the past, because the truth is the mind creates the stories from the present moment. Okay. We're working with a physical sensation, we're working with an emotion, something unprocessed in the body. It comes up like, hey, I want to be free. Okay, what are you about? And the mind keeps creating, because of that frequency, it feels into a frequency and creates a story to translate that energy, to translate that frequency, and it will take you to the past. If it could, it would also take you to the future, but where the analytical was like, well, I can't pull that off because that's not realistic. That hasn't happened yet. So I can't be upset about something that hasn't happened yet. But I can be upset about something that has happened, even though that too is complete BS and is a story. But because we're entertaining this, we're being there creating a connection with the subconscious mind. So we are entertaining those stories. So, okay, it's taking us to the past again. From the present moment, we're working with a particular emotion, we're working with a particular sensation. It's taking us to the past. I do not recommend going to past lifetimes. If it's really calling you, yes, but ideally you want to ground into this one and not entertain, like give less breathing room for your mind. Again, nothing in some cases, I do that in my own inner work. In some cases, I do that with clients. Generally speaking, I try to keep it to this lifetime. You've got enough. I promise you. Whatever's not healed will replicate itself in the present moment. Okay, it's like if you had, let's say, a toxic relationship again and again, and you had like, I don't know, four partners, same pattern, like what the hell, right? And you don't have to work on all those four partners. You can just work at the root cause, or you can just work right now. Okay, what is it that I need right now? Okay. And it's actually a combination of both working with right now. What is it that I need? What is it's more complex than that, but working with that pattern in the present moment, kind of glimpsing, oh, this is where it came from, but we're rooting it in the present moment. Okay. And when we go into past lives, and I know there are practitioners who work only on past lives and past life regressions, you're entertaining the mind to a point of that it doesn't need to be entertained because your power is in the now. You want to train your mind, even if it's inner work, you want to train it to be here now, not to get lost in all these things. Okay. They need to be looked at. Some parts of you need to be brought home, need to be brought to wholeness, but we don't live there. You know what I mean? Um, so this is in regards to just, past lives. And what I do love about past life regression and regressional work is like such a big part of the work that I do with inner child things and so on. But what I really love about regressional work is tuning into that time between reincarnations, because that enables you to have a different perspective. Like, oh, I'm not my mind. Oh, I'm not this lifetime. I've had myself very traumatic past regressions when like I remember being brutally killed, and I could feel the whole sensation in my body. And yeah, that's a whole video of its own. And things like that. And that was like one of my first times. I didn't know that. I didn't have to re-experience it. I didn't know that you could observe it. I wasn't taught how to do that. My guidance was just like communicating one step at a time. And so moments like that, it's like, oh, you died. And what happens then? And remembering those moments of the in between so that you don't associate with a particular persona. And this enables you to create space with the you that you are now. Okay, so I love, going outside of this lifetime for those particular examples, but I do it very rarely. Like we don't really need that in our own like day to day. And in regards to learning how to be the observer, there are just other techniques that are kind of more mind friendly, I would say, like some meditation practices, some focus practices. And yeah, in regards to the nostalgia, I really love that question. I would say why. I remember I got a past lifetime in which I got a cancer diagnosis, and then I died. The me died, and then I remember watching my family that was left over. There were like little kids, and feeling so sad about it. And I got that memory, or it was just sudden. It was at the beginning of my journey, and just things kind of like downloads were coming, and past lives were coming, and it was like a big mess because I didn't know how to navigate through that back then. And as that was coming, right? That was intense. Like one feeling was so, so intense. And I remember feeling the fear. I remember sitting in the doctor's office. I remember getting the diagnosis. I remember being there with my husband. I remember freaking out. And it was like a lot of emotions. And it just collapsed because like took over, like that life took over what seemed more real than this one. And I was just in the bathroom cleaning my makeup or something like that. And I remember asking my mentor, like, oh my God, like that was a lot. And they tell me, what is the message for you now in it? Right? Again, we're coming to the present moment. We can absolutely go into why did my mind go there? Let's analyze that. Let's go into that memory. No, just come out even of that, come out of the story and come back into the now. And you can ask, why is this coming up right now? A nostalgia, like, I feel like a feeling of nostalgia when I'm in this place, but how can I miss something I've never had? Yes, it could be that you had a past life there. It could be that maybe there was a death experience there, maybe someone from your relatives, maybe someone from your lineage, from your ancestors, because the past lives and the things that we remember it as translations of frequency of our physical body. So you can remember just things from your ancestors, like physical ancestors. Um, from ancestors that were emotional, like in the sense if you were adopted, for example, but you had a very close link to your adoptive parents, you would remember your lineage, like that lineage is your own as well, because you've energetically accepted it. I had that with my father, who he was not my biological father, but there was such a close connection that um, there was like after his death, there was a lot of connection to him and his lineage. And it could be a past life, absolutely. But I would recommend not so much focusing on the why and trying to understand it, but going into um, what is it that I need from this? What is it that I need from this? Oftentimes, feeling of nostalgia or feelings of some phobias, things like that come up, and that could be originate from past lives. I had, I remember it was after I got married, and it was the bureaucracy was hell to get married, and I got married. It's like, oh, finally, and then I did my exams, and it was like, oh, accomplished. And then a phobia came out of nowhere. Like I remember laying in bed, and I was like, I was feeling really claustrophobic, and I was like, oh my God, what happened? And it wasn't until gosh, I don't know, 8 years later that I realized I understood because I had a past life memory. They're like, oh, that had something to do with being buried alive and just like not being okay like this, not being able to move and like breathing in the soil as it was like put on me. And um, I didn't know what it was, but it was a phobia come up from a past lifetime. And so situations like that, it's like, yes, but why is it coming up now? And like I said, it can come up, like these things often resurface from a place of stillness. Like when you're still, this is why so many of us are running. Like for me personally, I had that the claustrophobia came out and I was like, where is this coming from? When there was like, oh, stillness, we're done running. I'm done with the paperwork for the bureaucracy marriage. I'm done with the exams. Like, oh, I can breathe. And then Mike is like, no, you can't, right? There's like stuff coming out. And we think that um, there's something wrong, or this is where like, okay, I have to keep going so that I'm too busy. for things to come up. And I mean, like, yeah, you may be too busy, but it's not going anywhere. And even more is accumulating. A wonderful practice, the Vipassana, which is a 10-day meditation practice of isolation. You're meditating there in sitting position 10 hours a day for 10 days. And it starts with, and it's agonizing, like it's an agonizing experience around day 4 or 5. It's different for different people, but I've done it several times, agonizing every time. And it's agonizing because you're there sitting in stillness and it's so uncomfortable. And then you kind of calm your mind down. So um, new baggage is not being accumulated, right? Because you're there in isolation, you're there in no thoughts. So you're just like calming your mind down. And then all the stuff that you have accumulated starts coming up. And that becomes agonizing. And it's translated, it's like it's a frequency that's translated in discomfort. It's translated in all kinds of thought. It's translated into physical pains, physical sensations. And it's because they're just frequencies, it's an energy trying to, it wants to be released. So yeah, and it's like that in our daily life. It's more intense and it's more practical if you do something like a Vipassana, or sitting with yourself in stillness or working with someone like, the 3-month containers that I do are really intense. Like it's a boot camp because we're releasing a lot and I'm teaching people how to work with that in a really short period of time. But it's like, we're done and we're cleaning it and we're learning how to not accumulate it. But it can be intense. And the alternative to that is, we keep running. And then whenever we sit still, things show up in our physical reality or maybe in our physical body. And we're like, oh, see, it's not safe for me to enjoy my life. It's not safe for me to calm down because shit's gonna hit the fan. Shit's only hitting the fan if you've been running away from it for a really long time, if you haven't been facing yourself. And this is why it's this vicious cycle. You have been disconnected from life, like we disconnect from God, from the present moment, because it's available here. It's always here. Your salvation is here, right? Your bliss, your happiness, it's here. But you're not here. Because at some point as a child, there was a lot of emotion. You're like, whoa, I don't know how to process that. Disconnected from God, disconnected from the present moment, disconnected from life, made up a story, why it's not safe. And then every time we stop and every time we're like, ooh, bliss. Oh, see, it's not safe. It's not safe to stay here for a long time. Gotta do. I've got to keep running. But you can't run from yourself. And at some point, this catches up to us. And it manifests in little ways. You don't manifest in our lives. It manifests in our physical reality, things not going well. It manifests in our physical body, like our body's screaming, hey, not okay. Body's expressing discontent. And like, what do? We poison ourselves and like numb when it says, hey, I need help. Or like, no, you don't. And, using chemicals. When our body's speaking, like our bodies are like, here's how we heal. And you're like, no, we don't. Okay, let's just shut up. And we do that in our lives, right? We do that when things surface in our lives and we're like, no, let's just deal with the surface problem, not understand there's a root cause. So that is my invitation. My invitation with that is like I said, the past lives or the feelings of nostalgia, whatever it is, bring into the present moment. What do I want right now? What is coming up for me right now? And that's a sad thing that we've been so disconnected from ourselves that the body, we're so closed off from what do I really want that we're at the point where the body and our world, right? Because the collective is just a reflection of your own consciousness. It's screaming, this is not what I want. So not only are we not anywhere near, hey, what do I want? This is how I thrive. This is how I open. This is how I receive. This is how that place of, like I said, the present moment, when you're one with God, when questions and answers come up simultaneously, you don't have problems because like, boom, there's a solution before you even know that there's a problem. We're so far from this that we're completely on the other side with the body having to scream, hey, this is not okay. The world and the way things are right now screaming, hey, this is not okay. And it takes the willingness to walk this path. It takes the willingness to just conscious choice. I want that. I want alignment. I want abundance. I want to be all that I came here to be. I want to step into that. And if you're here, in the female body as a woman, it's like, I want to tune into the feminine energy. I want that receptivity, learning that magnetism, the pleasure, the connection to the body. And if you're a man, that purpose, that direction, that decisiveness, this protection of the feminine, this protection, like creating those boundaries for that. It's like a river, like a riverbank, like creating those boundaries for that river to flow freely. And that is both within you and in society, right? Like, I know my direction, I know my purpose, I know what I want. I'm creating clear boundaries. And from there, intuition can flow. And from there, the feminine can open. And that is how life becomes easy, through that union of the masculine and the feminine energies within us and outside of us. So, what would it look like if today's Tuesday, if you work with life this week? What would it look like if you open to more flow? Or if flow is what's comfortable for you, how about you open up to more structure? So the invitation really is always with the ego, whatever you're uncomfortable with. So if your pattern is, okay, I have this is my day. I don't feel like it. You're too flowy. This is the invitation for structure. And if you're there, like, okay, no, we have a structure, and I don't feel well. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm doing my thing. You need more flow. Okay. So noticing where is your comfort zone and going a little bit outside of it. Now, we are going to have a powerful free activation here on YouTube on the 8th of August. I don't know why it took me a while to figure that out, because it's a Lion Gate activation. It's on 8/8. That doesn't change. So yeah, it's going to be amazing. There's going to be a link below so you guys can set the notification. There will be a replay available for a few days afterwards, because the energies are freaking phenomenal. It was since the solstice, this full moon was so just so many invitations for us to shift, to come into a new version of ourselves, to show up differently, that's another thing I want to address. A lot of times, okay, this is going to be a quick one. I feel like this is a whole video, but I want to bring this briefly here. We feel like to step into a version of our new selves, we have to completely let go of the past. And it doesn't necessarily mean that. It oftentimes just, and that's the invitation, that's the thing that's often uncomfortable. Can you be the new you in your current circumstances? Now, there's absolutely the time that if you feel like your environment is too much and too hectic, step away from it, right? Ground. It's like that little baby tree. When it's planted, it needs those sticks to protect it from the wind. They're also just going to be swooped away, right? So it needs that protection. So if you're in that place, absolutely. But too many of us, because we're in this society where, short-term gratification is I don't like it, I'm just going to do something else. I don't like it, I can have somebody else, or I can have another job. Or it just this instant gratification doesn't teach us to actually commit. It doesn't teach us to commit to ourselves. It doesn't teach us to commit to, I don't know, our home or our job or our partners, or there's always something else. But there's no depth in that. There's no creation. There's no mastery in that. And so noticing, where is it that a lot of us, especially in the spiritual community, we're clean slate, and I'm getting rid of everything. And yes, it has its place, but where is it that the invitation is to show up in a different way, to have a death and a renewal within, let's say, a current job, or within the current, place where you live, or in a current relationship. Okay. Because a lot of us kind of bypass that. I remember one of my mentors, I released a person from my life, and it was really difficult to do, really difficult. And it was such a dark night of the soul, just getting rid of that relationship from childhood. And I told my mentor, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so proud I did it. And they go, oh, you don't have to do that. I'm like, come on, acknowledge me here. That was really tough. And they're like, you don't have, it's your narrative. It's not about getting rid of that person. And if you haven't cleared that thing, then that person will just keep coming up in your life with a different face. So that's another thing, noticing here, where is it that we are running? And it's usually when there's an energetic charge. If you're like, I'm done, there's an energetic charge there. If it's just like love and hey, there's so much love in this, but this isn't right for me, that's how you know you're on the right path. Okay. So noticing that, noticing those patterns, being devoted to long-term healing, being devoted to your essence, being devoted to that mastery, that level of mastery. Are you willing to do that this week? Many blessings, and